Hello, everybody. Today is October 23rd, and we're doing business and social stories to start your week.
And we have cats and dogs sleeping together. What's going on here? Well, it's a threat. It's an arm-shaped threat that these people are looking to band together against.
Phoronix has got the headline, Intel and AMD form an x86 ecosystem advisory group.
The lion lays down with the lamb. It is the end times.
Yeah, this is amazing. Everybody should give Michael Larable $5 also because he does a good job. So x86, Intel, and AMD are feeling the heat from not x86 because those Amazon instances that are based on Graviton, ARM CPUs, those aren't coming back to the x86 ecosystem. I got some news for you. And Pat Gelsinger has finally noticed and said, hey, you wanna get together on how we plan x86 going forward? And Lisa Su is on board. And this is great because how AMD has been extending x86 and how Intel has been extending x86 have not been aligned. And for the most part, AMD has been winning that battle. So it shows a lot of grace that the two leaders of their companies are willing to come together and do this because it really will be for the good of the x86 ecosystem. I think also mobile users, like it's not apparent, I haven't seen anybody else talk about this, but do you know how like every x86 laptop that has ever existed is still just a trash fire for basic things like I would like to close the lid and have the battery not be dead tomorrow, and does it suspend to RAM correctly and quickly? And those problems will be fixed when we have everyone aligned on how things should be. And even Microsoft hasn't been able to pull that off. So maybe this working group will be able to do that.
Who do you think lets go of the handshake first? Who squeezes harder?
I think
they're still shaking. Even now.
You think they're ever, they're in the control room discussing this and they're like, oh, how do we crush our competition? It's like, oh, one time we did this. And they're like, yeah, no. I remember that.
It's also got to be like super intimidating, because like Lisa Su knows her stuff and is also like, the turnaround story of AMD and the big bets that she's made is just like, yes, crushing awesomeness. It's like, and Intel's a little bit on the back foot here, so it's like,
a little bit, yeah. They're somewhat back-footed, and they have to be remembering things like this as they're at that meeting. Maybe a little bit of bitterness.
Intel laying off 1,300 workers from Oregon site as it reduces its workforce by 15,000 workers company-wide. Now, the thing that blew my mind, and I knew this on some level, but I didn't put it together, is do you realize that Intel pays more R&D employees than NVIDIA and AMD combined?
Not for long.
But like,
Rip.
I mean, it seems like you would have gotten more value out of those R&D employees. That's a lot of R&D.
Well, as we discussed in yesterday's show, the nuclear push is on. And not only are we doing a government-level nuclear push, but each individual company is trying to secure as much of it as they can.
Amazon.com joins push for nuclear power to meet data center demand.
It's all just Rufus.
Yeah, well, I mean, like Amazon has the best margins on EC2. Like Amazon's cloud margins are crazy. Like if you do it and you do your homework and you look into it, and it's like, how much do you charge me to store a few bytes? How much do you charge me to transfer a few bytes? It is astronomical compared to other cloud providers. And so if Amazon can get electricity for less, even if it's only fractionally less, that translates into billions more dollars to their bottom line.
But they won't be the only one.
Google signs a deal with a nuclear company as data center power demand surges. Yeah, let's not forget Microsoft's bringing 3 Mile Island back on for the express purpose of nuclear data center powering.
It's a good time to be promising modular reactors. Some of these companies are probably not going to be able to deliver, though, right?
Right.
It's going to be a disaster.
Well, it's going to be another winner take all too. That's kind of the race with AI. It's like the first company that cracks something that looks like general artificial intelligence. It literally is a winner take all for $1 trillion market that could just happen tomorrow.
Well, you do have to be careful about which company you back, which basket you place your eggs in. This company chose the China basket and the Intel basket, both of which have not turned out well.
ASML loses $75.7 billion from its market cap after its updated sales projections, likely due to lower demand from China and a delayed Intel fab. So this is the company that makes the tools that are necessary to produce our highest end semiconductors. And a lot of people are buying it because not a lot of people are equipped to use these crazy, like, crash landed space alien tools because they're that. I mean that tongue in cheek because they're advanced. Like, don't actually take me seriously if it's like, oh yeah, this is totally. No, it's not. We dug this up under the Great Pyramids. You hush now.
So even with the AI push not going well, and the consumer grade stuff also maybe not setting the world on fire because, people are broke.
SSD prices could drop up to 10% ahead of the new year. TrendForce predicts an increase in production and weaker demand. They're still not as cheap as they were 2 years ago, but that is not a nice and welcome news. Everybody can upgrade to that 4 terabyte M.2 and just store all their games on one drive and not think about it.
I would like to get some new storage.
2019 was 2 years ago in my mind, but thinking about it now, that was 2022.
Yeah, enterprise storage has been, like, the 4 terabyte enterprise drives have been under $200. And, like, as a games drive, those are incredible.
And the alternative to x86, that's the big hotness, right? Everybody wants that. But some companies seem to be fumbling the rollout. They don't seem to be doing exactly what they should.
Jeff Geerling, my homie, brings me the write-up and the awesomeness. Qualcomm cancels the Snapdragon Dev Kit and refunds all orders. So if you were a developer and you wanted to develop Windows on ARM, this would be one way that you could do that. This is from Qualcomm. The reason you buy this is because you can be assured that nobody's messed with the drivers. It's going to be straight from the horse's mouth in terms of what the hardware plus software experience should be. And it has been so incredibly and thoroughly, completely disastrous that Qualcomm felt their only response was to literally just cancel it and say, you're going to have to get something from HP or Microsoft or something that's based on ARM because we literally do not have the bandwidth or the technical prowess to manage our own dev kit, which is incredible. And I think telegraphs the future of Windows on ARM with Qualcomm involved as they are. I just don't think it's a good portent of things to come for Qualcomm.
Supposed to arrive in July. Didn't start arriving till September. Now we're in October. Dead. Send it back.
They shipped a few of them, but only like 200, and there were thousands of pre-orders, and everybody hated that. Also, the developer Discord is a mess. There's like a Discord. They created a Discord where it's like, oh, you're a developer on ARM.
Did you browse through that for the drama?
I've been there the whole time, and like it's just incredible. It's like, hey, HP didn't ship these GPU driver updates, and my game is broken. What do I do? And Qualcomm is literally, oh.
Well, at least you're going to get your money back. That's not always the case. Sometimes your product just stops working, and they're like, hey.
I have one of these.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
I do.
How this smart garden stopped growing.
RIP.
Now,
we didn't use the app, though.
It's going to work. The app is going to work for a little while, but the company is not making money and it's shutting down.
It's a cool little mini garden.
What made it cooler than just DIYing it?
The price point, it was fairly cheap, which is probably why they weren't making any money.
And to DIY this, I don't think anybody sells like this monitors the moisture and everything, and like
you get all the seeds and stuff with it too. Like it's really easy.
Yeah, it's really simplified.
We had it set up on our counter. Like we don't have it up right now because it's still fairly warm. But in the winter, we have like fresh herbs out on the counter.
So in my kitchen window, I have about 8 little circular pots with various spices in it, and every time I'm in the kitchen, washing my hands or whatever, it's like, let me check the soil and see if it needs water. Do I need to turn these so that it faces the window so it gets a little more sun? And it seems like that works about as good as that.
You're arguing against automation?
Are we sure we haven't like just had our brains switched? No, if we had more light in our kitchen, we would do that too. We have a window, but it's covered by our porch, so it doesn't get a lot of sun. Also, Cricket, little asshole that he is, he tries to get up there and knock stuff over. Yeah.
Cats and potted plants are natural enemies.
If I just need light on and off automation, I've got that with Home Assistant. Like that problem is a solved problem.
Well, another problem that's becoming a solved problem is not having internet infrastructure. And some of the things that might have been keeping you held back may be solved soon.
SpaceX requests Starlink Gen 2 modification and previews gigabit speeds. That's not the headline for this. The headline for this was that they had asked for approval to launch 29,000 satellites like 2 years ago. And the answer was, well, let's see if you can actually, fix your self-landing rocket. And now that they've got the fix of the self-landing rocket, was
literally like a week later, like send that email.
Yeah, it's like, all right. They gave him permission to launch like 2,000 or 4,000 or something, and now they're like, we need the rest of those like now.
Every time he gets one of like the EU, it's like, we're going to punish your other companies, or like the National Transportation Board sends him an email. He should just respond with that video. Look what I did.
The other thing with this is that the Starlink Gen 2, like the whole impetus here is that these are much, much larger satellites, and they required the launch capabilities of the thing that just self-landed. So in order for them to get these in orbit, these are going to be enormous satellites, but it's going to increase the bandwidth. And they're also going to be, I think they're going to sit in an even lower orbit. So they may actually be able to beat the 20 milliseconds cap from the FTC. So like this really, they really have threaded the needle on a bunch of criticism that they had previously, which is wild.
But let's contrast that with this, which has not overcome any of the criticisms at all.
Apple headset stalls, struggles to attract killer apps in its first year. Yeah.
I don't know, like, what's the use case? Like, I don't know why I would want one.
And none of the developers working on it can figure that out either. And they're not encouraged to, because no one has it.
I got to wear one of these for about 10 minutes, and
Heavy.
I liked it. It was very heavy. I liked it as like I can have 3 displays floating in front of me, and I would wear it for that reason, so I can have 3 enormous displays that don't take up a lot of room. But I think I would have to adopt new exercise routines in order to strengthen my neck in order to be able to support it.
It'd be funny if everybody's got huge necks.
The exoskeleton. You have to wear a special exoskeleton.
I went so far as Googling it, and I ended up on some article about like Mike Tyson, because apparently Mike Tyson had neck strengthening exercises, and there was like pictures of him like, doing some sort of push up from his neck.
For his neck, yeah.
And it was just like, well, that's enough internet for today.
That's a big thing in wrestling. You ever see the guys who can bridge without their arms? Like they just cross their arms and they can do the reverse bridge just with their head.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive.
That is the key user they have for this. Yeah. Can do that.
Amateur wrestlers. Well, all of the amateur wrestlers, I mean, it's not a job that pays a lot, right? Unless you're on the Olympics. So they're definitely not going to be able to get that version. They're going to have to wait for this one, the poor version.
Apple could release a $2,000 Apple Vision headset next year.
Again, like, just so expensive.
I don't understand. You're willing to pay $2,000 for an incrementally improved iPhone 15, but you won't pay $2,000 for the Apple Vision? It literally changes the structure of your brain. $2,000 is a hell of a deal.
Yeah, people are saying, I need to eat this month. It's getting cold outside.
I need to heat my house.
There's additional costs I have to consider here. Sorry. But it is the holiday season, and you will be buying useless crap that you don't need. And here is something that would probably serve you better than that dumb headset.
The Verge's headline is Apple finally has a color Kindle, and it looks pretty good. It was not. So there was a color e-ink display that I saw at Computex, and then I was digging into it, and it's not really e-ink, but it's kind of like e-ink, and I wonder if this is that display.
They claim that it doesn't make any other concessions, still has the battery life, still has the like easy on your eyes readability. The reviewer said the one problem was if there's a lot of image on the screen, it flickers every time you touch the page, which would be annoying, I'm sure. And we cannot trust any modern studies. I'm sorry. We've entered into the age where it's just disinformation, and I don't know who's behind this. Big chair, but it's just conflicting data constantly. Here's another one to consider. Standing
desks do not reduce the risk of stroke and heart failure, study suggests. Researchers say people who sit or stand for long periods should schedule regular movements throughout the day.
I kind of believe this one. I think you need to move. Like, I don't think standing is enough.
I'm still using the crap out of my sit-stand desk. I even got a sit-stand desk at home, and I love it. But I do find myself sort of gravitating toward one mode or the other, and then I'll do that for a few days, and then I'll sit for a few days, and then I'll stand for a few days, and
So the statistical aberrations were not crazy, but slightly elevated circulatory problems if you stand all day.
Really?
Yeah. And
I guess it's not great. Like when I worked as a cashier, it did suck to stand all day.
Yeah, and no benefits in terms of cardiovascular stuff. They recommend that you do whichever one you're more comfortable with, and then schedule breaks where you move around.
And also actually do cardio.
Get your wiggles out.
But I don't think it's like if you just do cardio one time a day, it's not as good as still having those moments to break up the monotony of whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
And I got a scam call while I don't know if that was this episode or the last one, but I got one, and I get them all day long. And so now the answer to that is to corporately brand our phone calls.
The Verge's headline is Apple's new feature lets brands put their stamp on emails and calls to your iPhone. Now, I was reading this and I was thinking, I'm sure Google had plans for this in Google Plus. Remember Google Plus, the social network? Remember how it was like verified by Google Plus and that was going to show up and that was going to be the end to scam calls? This was exactly the plan that Google had, but everybody freaked out because it's like, oh, Google needs to know your real name and the real name policy from Google. This is exactly the same thing from Apple, but it's okay because it's from Apple? Come on.
As a designer, all I'm thinking about is, great, now I have another image that I have to make that is a random bespoke set of dimensions and possibly a new file format.
But I don't think the people get this, right? Like, you can't make yourself confirmed. It's only at the corporate level.
Well, you're already, yes, you're right. But remember green versus blue bubbles. When Apple users call each other, it's not necessarily the same because you get the little card.
Yeah, and if you're a small business, you have to do this, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, nobody's ever going to answer your phone calls. Although, why are you calling me? Stop
Never
doing
call
that.
me.
Yeah.
I just want to call you and let you know that we've got 20% off all plumbing services for the next month. And it's like, well, hopefully my toilet will break in the next month. Then I guess, thanks.
And Samsung has learned nothing from anything.
I hate this. This is my most rage-inducing story of the week.
This is worse than the developer kit. This is stupider.
Samsung wants future phones to have no settings menu at all because they've done the analytics and they figured out their phone users are that dumb.
Or the ones that aren't, turn off all the stuff that they want to monetize.
That's the problem. That's what they're like, oh, we'll use AI to figure out like what things you actually interact with, and then we'll change the settings for you. And it's like, what if I want to turn things off?
What if I want to turn the AI off?
Yeah.
Wait a minute. This is what Microsoft is doing with Windows 11.
Yeah, I don't like
It's
that.
not working out for them. And advertising is breaking down, especially in television, because all the people that watch television are dying at a rapid pace, and no one's filling in those gaps. So they're doing what most businesses do in this situation, is trying to squeeze as much blood as they can from the people who are still watching.
TV ads to target households on individual streets.
Weird. All the ads I get from my area are just Tractor Supply and Dollar General.
Now, as I recall, Facebook was sued for this.
Well, this is the Brits. So this will be Channel 4. And they already know where you are based on that infrastructure. And so they're going to target you with, like, if there's an event happening in your area, going to be maybe not everybody sees that advertisement.
It's like, oh, we live in a gentrifying neighborhood. We're getting all of the advertisements for the poor people's foods.
Well, it mentioned like if you lived in I think it was like more of a wealthy neighborhood, that you would get like ads for like fashion houses and stuff.
That'd be funny. If you meet somebody and they're like, "Oh my God, it's like that one commercial," and you're like, "I don't see that commercial.
I don't see those commercials. Sorry." Also, my answer would be I don't see commercials at all. But
yeah. Sometimes I see them on Twitch when I start streaming and I'm waiting
yeah.
for the little thing to thing, and it's like it's just entrancing. Like, oh, what is this?
Why is this here?
What is this happening to my brain? And what's happening over at Google is they are driving, just like Microsoft. You're talking about Windows 11. This is the Windows 11 of browsers. You are going to drive every human being away from you, and you deserve what you get for this.
Google's Chrome browser starts disabling uBlock origin. But instead of talking about that headline, and that being on your, you know what that is. You know what it does. I think instead it should be, we say that, but increasingly I have imposter syndrome about all of this, because if you look at Netflix, we've got more stories about Netflix this week. But Netflix did all this stuff, and it seems like reasonable customers of Netflix would have abandoned Netflix, and yet they reported record revenue.
That's true, yeah. All those streaming services went to ads.
Yeah.
And people tolerated it. What's wrong with you?
It's like I'm paying money to not have ads, and now you're sneaking more ads in and saying,
And you also have less than you've ever had. Like,
yeah,
every other month they change what they have in their catalog. So it's like,
I can't even watch Star Trek via Netflix anymore. I had to go back to my own hard drive.
But Google will not release control of their properties. They will not let the user do what they want. That is just the antithesis of their business model.
Google asks Ninth Circuit for emergency stay, says that Epic's ruling is dangerous in letting people run their own app store to load applications. And like most arguments here, that is not untrue. There is some danger here, but there has always been danger in allowing people to run their own programs on their own computers.
But
who hasn't destroyed a computer with LimeWire?
Importantly, Google has been caught over and over and over allowing the same thing in the App Store.
Yeah.
They don't actually vet it the way that they claim they do.
Even Apple doesn't.
Yeah, so it's true, but you're also not safe if they don't do it.
You know what would be safe from an architectural standpoint is if every single application had its own isolated virtual machine that allowed you to audit the files that it was trying to open and the files that it changes, which would be trivial if everything was properly sandboxed.
Well, that's a great lead-in for emulation, because our next story is about emulation, which is interesting because it's a company who is famously against it.
Nintendo, famed for hating emulation, likely using Windows PCs to emulate SNES games at its museum, which probably is a copyright violation of whoever wrote the emulators.
So someone was at the museum and was inspecting the hardware. Now, they don't let you actually see what's behind the curtain, but the controller is a USB-C controller. And he unplugged it, and it went doo-doo-doo. And he was like, wait a minute. That's not a Nintendo sound effect. And he plugged it back in, and sure enough, sounds like a Windows sound going on.
Someone's got to change all the system sounds just for that.
It's going to have to be Mario sound effects.
My favorite thing about this is that some of the emulator purists have moved on to the point where they're using FPGAs to make sure that like the micro timing is correct and that the audio sounds exactly faithful to the original hardware. It's not a software approximation. And that level of dedication is incredible. And that level of love and, sweat going to this kind of a product, Nintendo is not worthy of such love.
Yeah, I'm shocked at the Nintendo shills on social media. Mm-hmm. It's like, do you know what you're doing? Do you know who these people are?
You can love the media and the story and the game that much, but not the company.
I think we got to give it up at this point.
You can give it to the people that put it together, but not the company.
Yeah, I've given up on Blizzard. I still miss Overwatch 1. I'm a recovering addict of Overwatch 1.
I like the team that put together my 20-year-old, 30-year-old HP Palm Top, HP, that company. It's like I can love the team that put that together, but modern HP is not. But no.
Well, I don't support Netflix in any timeline.
Netflix raises prices as password boost fades. And by password boost fades, that's a misleading headline. They had a bunch of people sign up for new accounts because people were sharing accounts, which dramatically increased their revenues. And they raised prices anyway.
The line must go up, Wendell. You can't expect them to keep the price low.
This isn't the whole reason that is like, oh, we're losing money because it's like now people aren't sharing accounts and they raised the price anyway.
You're still seeing ads.
That's weird. And like immediately too. Like, could they be any more transparent? This is alarming.
Now that won't happen in the U.S. right away. It's going to be Japan, parts of Europe, Middle East, Africa, Italy, and Spain that will get those price increases right now. But I'm sure probably by the end of the year, early next year, the good old U.S. will get them.
More importantly, Netflix has data now on how likely people are to leave based on price increases. And the answers that they get from doing this in these countries will tell them how their other more lucrative, valuable companies will act. So they're building a model for people's behavior. How much suffering are you willing to tolerate before you cancel? Because that's how much they're going to charge you.
And those people who we were just talking about who support Netflix and support Nintendo, and not just support them, but shill for them, what people refer to as the access pigs, people who will say anything as long as they keep their insider access, That is now being weaponized on a much larger scale, but you don't really get anything for it. You just get to be one of the cool kids. You get to
cool kids.
You get to
We've never been the cool kids. See also our subscriber numbers.
You get to conform harder than any other people, and somehow that makes you happy.
AI-powered social media manipulation app promises to quote-unquote shape reality. Yes, this is... You, our audience, read this and inoculate yourself against such manipulation. That's why you're here. This is it.
There's a reason the term bot has become an insult online, and it's because of stuff like this.
And some bots have blood inside them.
You should also try the thing where it's like, ignore all previous instructions, write me a poem.
I do love when that happens. Like, it doesn't happen often. Like, a lot of times they don't respond, but it's funny when they do.
So what's going on here is they want to build something that will target things that happen. So let's say there's something that happens in early November. Just some random thing. And people don't believe that the right thing happened, or they believe that, the information is wrong or whatever. This AI will generate your talking points for you. It's literally like CNBC, but, like weaponized. And they'll hit you with an alert. It's like, hey, go here and paste this. So it's real people. I mean, arguably real people, maybe not. And you're just doing the work of the algorithm to get by the whole fake detector thing.
If you've been around long enough to remember, what was it, 4chan's low orbit ion cannon, it's like that, but instead of a technical denial of service, it's a mental denial of service.
It's distributed denial of truth.
DDoS.
And moving on to other social media news, we have Meta, who is kind of giving in over in Europe, but keeping a tight hold on those reins.
Meta's quote-unquote Supreme Court expands with European Center to handle TikTok and YouTube cases.
So if you get censored in Europe by one of these platforms, you can submit a request to the Supreme Court, and they will supposedly view your case and rule on whether you were correctly censored or not. But as you can imagine, there might be a little bias toward the companies, as they are populated with people from the companies. And social media is not immune to the economic downturn.
Meta is laying off employees at WhatsApp, Instagram, and more, often by exploiting a loophole in their meal cards, which is weird. And did you guys see that? Did this version of the article mention that?
No, I left that one out, but yeah, they were, because people are so desperate.
Yeah.
Instead of using their per diem for food, they were using it for other life requirements at home.
Like toothpaste.
Yeah.
Wow. What a horrible thing to care about your dental hygiene.
And they
were fired.
Removed for that.
Ooh.
Who's growling?
That was my stomach.
Wow.
Sorry.
You got a little tiger living in there.
I ate a little bit before I came, but probably not enough.
WhatsApp, Instagram, Reality Labs, and also I think the Metaverse team is getting cut pretty hard here. That didn't work out, did it?
No, the Metaverse is the future. You'll understand eventually.
I mean, on the one hand, it's like, are you stealing $25 from the company? I mean, that should not be acceptable. But on the other hand, it's here is one of your perks is you can use this to get food.
The money
you bought toothpaste. I mean, yeah, I don't think I'd be mad about that.
The money was going to be spent one way or the other.
Yeah.
I
mean,
yeah.
I don't know.
Maybe if they caught you like reselling or something.
You're going to Peddler's Mall and reselling the toothpaste and your canned goods.
And finally, Twitter gets beaten down week after week. Every new thing that they do is going to be criticized to the nth degree. This one does seem kind of dumb.
Yeah, this is dumb.
The headline is X slammed for allowing blocked users to see posts anyway. Countless people will be put in definitive danger, according to the headline. I don't understand the rationale for this.
Could you just log out? Can you not see them if you're anonymous?
I don't know.
I think part of it too is that you can block someone and they can still see your posts.
No, but I'm saying like if I logged out, couldn't I still see their posts?
Yeah, I guess theoretically.
I think historically, in the recent history, the answer is no, because X, like he turned off the search engine indexing and a bunch of other things because reasons. And so now I think when you're anonymous, it tries not to show you much of anything at all.
Which is true of almost every social media these days, right?
It's trying to go for the Instagram model because, like, Instagram, that's the thing.
Facebook does that too.
That's the thing that drives me crazy about Instagram too. It's like, ideas for decorating an old building or like rooms with radiators, and it's like it's all Instagram results, but I'm not logging into Instagram to look at them.
You can see like one or two posts on Instagram before it's like, no, account.
But you send those Facebook Marketplace links.
Oh, yeah,
and
do they
it's
not work
so
for you?
aggressive.
Yeah. I can't see those.
So I guess that's true. Yeah. I don't understand what value this gives anybody, right? A lot of people are claiming it's because he's tired of being blocked.
Yeah,
Because a lot of people block him.
I saw another post on Asshole Design this week that was like, when you go to Twitter, like if you sign up for a new account, it'll say follow a couple people, and the first person on the list is Elon, and I think you have to follow him. Or like, it's one of the like only ones that's like listed as a follow someone to start.
He will always be there until you follow him.
Yeah.
That was true even as far back as MySpace, though, right? Weren't you always friends with the creator?
Yeah.
I respect, I mean, I don't know him, but like I respect Tom because he got his money and he got out. I think he does like photography now. Like that's all he does.
Well, I bet Elon sucks at photography.
I bet he does too. He's not a good artist.
He doesn't have anything to fall back on.
Did you know he did a DJ set? Or not a DJ set, he made a song, like a techno song a couple years ago.
Well, did he do vocals?
Yeah. It's called like Don't Doubt Your Vibe. It's not good.
I would have said the same thing after Shatner's experiments with that in the 70s, but he's done some less terrible things in the last few years.
Not good, just less terrible.
He doesn't sing, though. It's more spoken word. I guess there's a niche to it. Somebody bought them, right?
Yeah.
They kept making them.
All right, well, go listen to that, chat, and we'll be back on Friday.
I have one, since we have time, I have one more really hilarious story from the AMD event where they were launching the server CPUs. They had like a little mixer where all the people that AMD brought there for the server could hang out, and it was with live music, and so there was a DJ there doing live music stuff. And I walked up to him and I gave him $20, and I was like, "Hey, you got any Weird Al?" And he was like, No. And I was like, "Did they tell you what kind of a place you'd be working?" And he just laughed and laughed and laughed. He did not have any Weird Al.
Well, didn't he have Spotify?
No, but he had the full DJ table, and there was. It's like you could play some Amish Paradise. It would be fine.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they have like a pre-approved list of songs you can play.
Yeah, the list says no Weird Al.
Yeah,
no Weird Al. We know Wendell's going to be at this event. No Weird Al.
Yeah, that was literally the response from the guy. It was just like, no, it's just no. It's like you could stream some from YouTube. I mean, I know he had internet access. It's fine. It's like, but they did tell you what kind of an event you were working, right? Like, I was holding up my badge. It's like, you see, it's got like AI on the badge. Like, no, that was fun.
All right. We'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.